Hi, how's it going? Paul Catalina, 365 Sports here for Factor. They came to me a couple weeks ago, sent me these fantastic meals, fresh, never frozen meals. I absolutely loved every single thing they sent to me. If you are too busy to stick to a meal plan or it's getting crazy, it's football season around here, Factor is the way to go. Ready in 2 minutes out of the microwave. I got the Gourmet Plus option, which has stuff like this Chipotle rub pork chop, Indian butter chicken, this fantastic turkey chili with zucchini. So many great meals. You can refresh your healthy eating habits without missing a beat, and you can choose from 34 plus weekly flavor-packed, dietitian-approved meals ready to eat in 2 minutes. And right now, you can head to factor75.com and click the link below and use 365 Sports 50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. So once again, head to factor75.com, use promo code 365 Sports 50, 50% off your first Factor box. Factor.com, factor75.com, 365 Sports 50.
Let's get the quote from Swarbrick that we have alluded to. This is from, he was in Dublin, Ireland with the Dan Patrick show for the game against Navy. It's a complete disaster what's happened to college athletics. Everybody in the industry has to take responsibility, and I'm not excluding myself from that. I think decision-making lost its way in terms of focus on the student athlete and what's primarily best for them. You can't have two of the great academic institutions in the world not have a place to play. We're working on a solution. There's still consideration of the ACC as a home for those schools, and on the Pac-12 dying, it's looking that way more and more every single or every day, yes.
Yeah, I mean, reading it comes across differently than it sounded. It was a lot more somber when he was talking, and he had like some kind of short answers that were just, it made it like very dramatic, sort of. Which was just, it was kind of interesting the way it came across, like it was almost a funeral or something, but maybe it was. Maybe it was a funeral for the Pac-12 because he thinks that they will, in fact, with Notre Dame's influence to at least some extent, along with others, obviously, they'll pull off this deal that would effectively, it would kill the Pac. I mean, that would be the last fatal blow for the Pac-12 and would leave, obviously, the Washington States and Oregon States to go and try to find what they could, which, there's a lot of options that have been laid out for them as well, including the American and others. So, Notre Dame's in their corner. Most of the teams in the conference are obviously in that corner because there's only four that are, not
two-thirds of them say they want it.
Yeah, not allowing it to happen. So there certainly seems to be some momentum in that direction. Now, as we know, when you put out in the media, there can be reasons why you do that. You try to put it out there to sway certain things. You try to, dictate the narrative. I'm going to be fascinated to see if one of these four decides, you know what, it is better for us. Or is there a concession made, or what kind of concessions are made or guarantees made to get that, further down the line?
Paul, you mentioned that the four schools in NC State. Who among the conference? And I know that they would have a success rate distribution of whatever money besides the TV deal, and that could be what they get now, and then there's that extra layer that they're getting with pro rata. Who's going to get that? Is that going to be based on just performance? And if you're the rest of the conference, is that enough to give up, knowing that you're probably going to always be in a pecking order like Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's not a bad football program.
Well, they won the conference.
Yeah.
They won the conference just 2
years ago. And I know Miami's down, and Miami's a private school, and they're down. But I will be interesting. And by the way, if it works out, that's just two more schools that are saved from being in the ocean without a life raft, if that works out for Cal, Stanford, plus SMU. Here's a question from TJ. I don't get it. If SMU does not want the money for 7 years, whatever the number's going to be, they have never won the AAC in the conference. Why do they want to be in a Power 5 conference? Prestige, donors get a little more happy with their wallets and their checkbooks and stuff like that, and they feel like that gives them a chance to recruit better in what is a great state and area to recruit in Dallas and Fort Worth.
I mean this with the utmost respect towards the American schools. Would you rather play Tulsa or Florida State? I mean, I think that's as simple as I can make it. Would you rather play, I know Tulane's got a lot of respect, especially here over the last year because of what their football program did. But, let's just take it back to when Tulane's not necessarily a hot team and one that we think, all that highly of. And even still, like compare that to playing Clemson, right? I mean, there you go. There's one part of it. There's also the extra money that you would get from, extra ticket sales and all that goes on within the campus and campus life and all of that, extra enrollment. There's a lot of different avenues where you're better off, including, potentially your path to a playoff, your respect level, your prestige level, like you said, academics wise. I know we goof on that because there were some goofy comments made about that in the lead up to the Big 12, Pac-12, event. But in this case, if you are an SMU and you're looking around, you're looking at Duke and Virginia and schools like that, that is appealing to you. That is very much appealing to somebody who does care about academics. So academics, money, even though they're not getting the TV money, but money will come in different ways, including, if you're playing Florida State and Clemson, all of a sudden that big booster out in Highland Park who's already given you $1 million, maybe wants to give you $3 million because now you're competing with a different set of schools with a different set of rules for different types of players. So there's a number of ways where it makes more sense for SMU, even without the TV money. And, just the fact that they could float 7 years without even receiving that and be okay, that should tell you everything about kind of their position right now.
Yeah. All right. There's a lot of moving parts. Right now, there's the story from Pete Thamel. There's a lot of discussion. What does it mean? Obviously, for Cal, Stanford, and also SMU, it would mean that they're on dry land, that they are a part of a Power Five, no matter what will be the breakdown financially and how many years, and what does it mean for those in the conference, who gets it, and is it just based on the new money? If it's there, would it be based on just the success rate, wins and losses, et cetera?
Here's what I would say. Why would SMU want to be in the ACC and make no money? Why does Jeff Bezos have a rocket ship? I mean, it's to get more noticed. Yes, they have the money, and if they have the money to forego it for 7 years and roll the dice and help the league out in that thing, then look, that's, there are stupider things that people spend their money on, I guess, and so if they want to spend their money that way, then so be it if they feel they can withstand it.
A lot of actors and people with a lot of money, they don't have to be actors, and even athletes, they have multiple mansions because they can. And so why not, if you can buy it and you have the ability to do it and you don't put yourself in a bad position, why not have a lot of nice bells, toys, and whistles?
Yeah, but they're not really buying anything here, though, guys. That's the difference. Is like you're talking about things that you buy. They're not really buying anything. They're foregoing
Aren't
money.
they buying into a conference?
They're not really. I mean, not technically, no. They're not spending money. They're losing money to get into a conference. So they're not buying. They're doing the exact opposite. They're gushing money or giving away money.
If you're buying into a conference, you're losing money. And they're losing money. That was my analogy.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're not giving $100 million. Technically, they are. They're just not ever receiving it to begin with. They're not getting it to start off with. They're just never seeing it. But yeah, I mean, regardless of how you want to break it down, SMU is doing whatever desperate measure they can, and I don't mean that as a negative, buying their way in or, talking their way in, however you want to phrase it. They're doing whatever they can to get that last seat on whatever, last boat is remaining in people's eyes when it comes to college athletics. So, I mean, we mentioned several ways in which it makes sense for them, even without the tens of millions of dollars that they, would have if they were a regular member of the conference. But they get all the other things, the bells and whistles, as you put it. They get all those as a member, and that offsets any monetary loss, so to speak.
A little bit later on, Reggie Bush has filed a lawsuit on against the NCAA. There's an Iowa player who's out for the year with suspension of gambling. Georgia running back injured. We'll have some of those stories a little bit later on. Lewis Doe, ACC could close the gap by reaching naturally untapped market, like play games and get ESPN to experiment with Spanish language. Oh, wait, the Big 12 and Brett Yormark jumped on that log first. I would like to know what the pro rata is, and if it's the same as what the ACC schools are getting now. And then, Paul, let's say you get 3 or 2 times that number. And then whatever SMU would bring to the table, let's just say, what are they making? $6 to $8 million in the American, whatever that number would be. Or maybe they would get, like Brigham Young, Cincinnati, Houston, and also UCF, $18, $19 million the next couple of years each year. You add all that together, and you're looking at $75 to $80, $90 million. Distribute that over a certain amount of schools based on wins and losses. I would think if you are 8 schools who are in the boat here that want this to happen, why would you then take less money based on success rate and not get the same share as the 4 schools or one of the schools you need to flip in the 4 schools overall, that you get the same as they do?
Yeah, that's the question that's going to have to be answered for me is outside of saving the conference, right? Because that's what it would, if you have to forego all this money to give to a few people, and you only get a little bit of it. And a little bit of it goes in the success pot, which for some schools, you're probably only going to see once every 15 to 20 years. If you say the conference stayed that long. Boston College may one day haul off and win the ACC in football, but they're not going to do it 7 times like in a row Clemson has. So is it worth it to even do that to save the conference? Well, if you're Boston College, maybe. But if you're somebody else that's maybe like a little bit bigger school than them, maybe not. I don't know how you would all agree to that, just because if you're just going to decide to do unequal revenue sharing across the board, and
they've already done that.
They already agree. There's only 4 that haven't.
But shove all that money to those 4, then
but they already have
benefit?
come up with a plan for what they're getting now, despite whether Cal, Stanford, SMU join. Haven't they already pretty much agreed that they're going to look at that kind of, maybe the distribution will be more focused on wins and losses, give or take whatever that is?
Well, I'm talking about both of these things together, the success pot and the new money from the 3 schools coming in. If you're just going to decide to give all that money to those 3, I don't know how much that helps you long term. And if you're just, if it's even enough to keep them from going the minute they would get an offer that is the money that they really want, then what did you do? I guess you could renegotiate after that, but your conference may not exist after that, and things may have changed.
Well, that's why it doesn't really make that much sense. I mean, it makes sense for all involved, like we broke it down earlier, but then like from a 10,000-foot view, it's just like, okay, I guess. I mean, that's kind of how it feels like. It does feel like you're just delaying the inevitable because, again, when you start to add up all the money and keep talking about pro rata, and there is for those 2 PAC schools, like they are getting extra money there, but how does $60 million get divvied up? And then, like you said, and I know they've talked about performance, revenue sharing, but they haven't solidified anything to our knowledge. Talking's one thing, actually doing it's another. So yeah, they've talked about it. They've loosely agreed to explore it, but since agreeing to that, what's happened since then? Nothing has happened since then. So,
that's because Florida State may have overshadowed all of that.
They definitely did, but I mean, that still doesn't change the fact that nothing's changed there. Like, they're going to look at it, but I mean, what is looking at it? Looking at it's not everybody going, all right, we're all in together and we are ready to sign this document and we have agreed to. I mean, there's a lot of details that need to be figured out. So, I mean, there are schools that are going to be cooperative, and there are clearly 4 that are the uncooperative ones at this moment. And can you sway one of those schools to get what you ultimately want? From the West Coast and SMU and conference perspective, or, are those 4 and the inevitable, they're leaving anyways, what's the point? That's what the balancing act is going to be for I guess all those involved to figure out. But looking out for your best long-term interest, I think the majority of schools have spoken, and they feel that the best thing for the ACC is to have these 3 schools and markets brought into the fold.
If you hear that the ACC is going to have a vote, I would say 99% that means they're going to pass it. I think that they don't want to go to another vote and then not pass it, and then they go down that hamster wheel yet again.